Hey, I'm Rick Sammon. Thank you so much for joining me in beautiful Croton on Hudson, New York. I'm here today to introduce you to the new Canon EOS 6D Mark II. This is an amazing camera for stills, for video, and even for time-lapse photography. And it's great for travel photographers and nature photographers. I was down here on the river last night. The light was simply amazing. I got a great time lapse, I got some great stills. I also got some great pictures in my own backyard, some great wildlife. So speaking of my backyard, join me there, let's go. Hey, it's really good to see you again. You know, one of the really cool things I love about this camera is the built-in time-lapse. I never shot a time-lapse before, honestly, in my whole life until last night. Check out this video. Now, when it comes to time-lapse, you want to note the direction of the clouds. In the first part of this movie, the clouds are going over my head, and in the second part, they're moving to the right. So this is what you want to note. You want to note the direction. You have to have something moving. You want to note the direction of the clouds. What I did is this 10-second movie, this 10-second time-lapse took a half hour to shoot. So both segments were about 50 minutes. And you have the option in the camera to set up how many pictures you want to take and the interval. So these pictures were taken about every 3 seconds apart. Another fun and creative feature of this camera is the built-in HDR. For this picture, and for this picture, I set my camera on EV0, +2, and -2. So the camera combines the 3 pictures into one JPEG image for a picture. I mean, look at this light. The contrast range was just too great to be captured in a single file. This is why you want to use HDR. Another tip is shoot everything vertically and shoot everything horizontally. And another tip about HDR is don't oversaturate it. When you bring an image into your image processing program, if you boost up the contrast too much, boost up the saturation too much, it's going to look overcooked. So this is one thing you don't want to do. You want to go for natural looking HDR images. You know, when we were down by the river, I said this camera is great for nature and wildlife photography. Check out this shot of this buck that I took in my backyard. This camera is so responsive. I just use a touch screen. I set the focus right on the eye. And the tip is, when it comes to wildlife photography, in most cases, if the eye's not in focus, you've missed the shot. Now, when I choose a camera, the first and foremost thing I want is a sharp picture without a lot of noise. With this new camera, the 6D Mark II, I took this picture of a bald eagle at a local nature center at ISO 5000. After I did that, because that animal was in the shade, I moved over to this owl shot. This picture was taken at ISO 8000. And I don't think I couldn't see any noise when I opened this picture on my computer. So getting a clean picture is very, very important. One of the reasons why I was able to get all those sharp shots is because this camera has a continuous shooting mode where I and you can shoot up to 6.5 frames per second. But here's a photo tip when it comes to photographing animals. Very important tip. Look for gesture. So I'm going through my pictures here and I'm looking for a gesture that the animal's making, like when the deer was looking at me, when the bald eagle was looking off to the side, and when the owl was looking directly at me. So when it comes to animal photography, wildlife photography, and people photography, remember, gesture is very, very important. You know, there are a couple of other cool features I'd really like to tell you about in this camera, features that I love as a travel photographer. You know, I've been to about 100 countries. I can't remember exactly where I was every single time. So this camera has built-in GPS, so I could take a shot. You can turn it on and off, by the way. This has built-in GPS, so I know exactly where I take a shot. So actually, if you downloaded the pictures of these pictures and you saw the GPS information, you can see exactly where I took that time lapse and those pictures on the river last night. So it has built-in GPS. It has built-in Wi-Fi. It has built-in Bluetooth, so you could always transfer your pictures to your personal device. Okay, here's a tip. Just because you have an autofocus camera, it doesn't mean that the camera knows where you want to focus. Fortunately, the 6D Mark II has 2 ways you can focus. In camera, this camera has an optical viewfinder with a 45-point all-cross type AF system. Try saying that 3 times when you're on camera. So you can actually look through the viewfinder and set the focus point exactly where you want to focus. And this is kind of cool. This is the first Canon full-frame camera with the flip-around screen, so you can set the focus anywhere you want. I'd like to switch gears and do a quick composition tip. When it comes to composition, usually dead center is deadly. Check out this picture of this water lily. The flower is dead center in the frame. It's kind of boring. Now look what happens when I compose the picture with the flower. Actually, it's a different flower. When I compose the picture a little differently with the main subject off center. So placing the subject off center makes the picture a little more interesting because the viewer's eye goes around the frame to see what else is in the frame. So what I did here is I was using live view, and I just pressed my finger on the LCD screen on the back and I placed the focus right on the flower. Check this out. You can see in this original picture, you can see there's a tiny little darning needle in there. Well, thanks to the image sensor here, again, the 26.2 megapixel full frame CMOS sensor, thanks to this image quality produced by the sensor, I was able to zoom in and get a pretty tight shot of just the darning needle. I think it's a darning needle or a dragonfly against the flower, which there's still enough information there to put on the banner of your website or even make a pretty nice small print. And my friends, that's just one of the things the Canon 6D Mark II lets you do. It helps you convey your creative vision. I'm Rick Sammon. I'll catch you later.